What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to A to Z Sports. We're out here live at Tennessee Heating and Cooling and Brymac Mechanical, our friends out in Clarksville. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're ready to talk about what's going on in the world of the Tennessee Titans. Some changes to the staff that we are going to discuss, an offensive coordinator that they're going to need because Art Smith is about to end up the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. We're also going to spend some time on the defensive coordinator because they're taking outside interviews, and it's something that I know that you guys are going to want to discuss. I'm going to make sure that I can see everybody's comments here so we can get off and rolling here on the prime time, or not the prime time. We are here at Tennessee Heating and Cooling here on the show. I know that you guys are excited to talk about everything that's going on, and we are not going to hesitate at all to give it to you. But first, I want to know from you guys, or I'm going to tell you guys about our friends where we're at Tennessee Heating and Cooling. My volume is too low, apparently, so I will crank that up for you to make sure that you can hear me loud and clear. Hey, we do this live. That's okay. We can work through all the technical difficulties together. Your special Buckmaster. I was watching Urban. No audio, big guy, says Mike. Well, I hope that's not the case. I hope we bring in someone that will take us to the bowl and improve our defense big time, according to Wesley Bates. I know that a lot of you guys are passionate about this, and so we're going to talk about it here on the streaming live broadcast that we're doing from Tennessee Heating and Cooling. Before we get started, you got to share this show around on Facebook Live and on Periscope, wherever it is that you consume us. You can retweet the show if you view with us on Periscope. That is in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. In fact, I will do it with you right now and retweet the broadcast on my new iPhone. I'm very excited about my new iPhone here at Brymac Mechanical. Retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and we will be able to get your Periscope people and your Twitter friends involved that way. If you view with us on Facebook Live, it's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. It's share now to public. That's how we get the people going here live from Brymac Mechanical and Tennessee Heating and Cooling. Got a little wind, but it's okay. We're going to fight through the adversity, and we're going to spend some time talking about Arthur Smith, Terrell Austin, who interviewed for your defensive coordinator position. So that's where it will start here on Tennessee, or excuse me, here at Tennessee Heating and Cooling. I want to know from you guys in the comment section on Facebook Live and on Periscope what you feel about the defensive coordinator position, because Mike Vrabel reportedly has been interviewing external candidates, which is something that we knew that they were going to do. We knew that they were going to get outside involvement there at St. Thomas Sports Park. I don't think it necessarily rules out Shane Bowen as somebody who will be involved and potentially calling plays again for the Tennessee Titans defense. But I want to know from you guys here on this A to Z Sports pop-up from Tennessee Heating and Cooling and Brymac Mechanical. What was your first reaction to hearing the news that the Titans are interviewing external candidates for their defensive coordinator position? Terrell Austin is the one who was rumored or who was reportedly in the building yesterday. I think that is a very, very interesting place to look, and I'll be able to read your comments here on the phone since we're multitasking here out at Brymac Mechanical, but it'll be good. Lovey Smith is coming in, says Lewis Chesney. What about Belichick's kid for DC, Steve or Mayo? Says John Melton. I think Doug Marrone would be someone I would interview. That's from Brian Spivey on Facebook Live. No to Shane, says Danny Whitson. So here's where we'll start, because ultimately Zach Bingham and myself of A to Z Sports in the Morning, we've been going back and forth about this a little while, and I have long believed that Mike Vrabel, ever since Dean Pease retired, in fact, the first media availability that we had with Mike after Dean Pease retired, and then again and again over the course of last offseason, he was talking about how much he valued system and scheme continuity. System and scheme continuity is something that Mike Vrabel places at a premium, which is why Shane Bowen, maybe if it's only for a year, maybe we'll see if he comes back and does it again or is promoted as defensive coordinator. I think you would have a hard time justifying a promotion of Shane right now. But you look at what Mike Vrabel values and who he brought in to help him. Dean is somebody he was obviously familiar with. Anthony Midget, somebody who he coached with in Houston. Bowen is from that same staff that Mike Vrabel was a part of with the Houston Texans. Jim Haslett, his former defensive coordinator, while he was an outside linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. What I would say to you guys, your first reaction to this interview that he held, reportedly, according to sources yesterday. Jerry Dulac in Pittsburgh was reporting this because Terrell Austin, who was interviewing for the defensive coordinator position, has been a defensive backs coach, a secondary coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has actually, at some points in his career, been a candidate for head coaching positions around the league. So you know that he's looking to take the next step. Honestly, what my first reaction was this is fantastic news because Mike Vrabel, what we're ultimately looking for from Mike Vrabel is what he has shown us every year that he's been here, and it's understanding how bad the defense was and how much they struggled. You look at actually, you know what? I'll tell you about our friends at Tennessee Heating and Cooling before I give you my first reaction to them interviewing external candidates, because that's where we are. We're out here in Clarksville at Tennessee Heating and Cooling. It's their main location. It's one of three that they have in the mid-state as well as in Kentucky. TNHCreviews.com. That's the website that you go to, or you can give them a dial right there at the number that you see behind me. As you've seen these volunteer orange trucks rolling around town, 931-614-0999. Tennessee Heating and Cooling for satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. Just say the 2021-2022 season is over if Shane is promoted. That's from Apollo on Facebook. Listen, what my first reaction was this is fantastic news. This is tremendous. This is really, really good. Even honestly, even if he ends up with Shane as the defensive play caller, and I'll expand on what I mean based on that theory. I want to see, and what you guys want to see, is Mike Vrabel's willingness to open things up a little bit, to branch outside of his known commodity of coaches circle. That's kind of what Mike has done in bringing guys in, even going back as far as Dean Pease. He's obviously got a ton of familiarity with Dean Pease. They were together in New England. Dean is, of course, a Hall of Fame football coach, or could be a Hall of Fame football coach. He should be a Hall of Fame football coach for as good as he has been throughout the course of his league and for as many Super Bowls and championships as he has won. But Dean Pease, there's only one Dean Pease, right? Just as there was only one Dick LeBeau. And so with Terrell Austin, it's not like Mike doesn't know anything about Terrell Austin. He obviously values his skill set as a defensive play caller and as a defensive coach if he would be willing to bring him in for an interview for this job. What I want to see, though, is Mike branching out, getting outside of his circle, and that's what the interview with Terrell Austin kind of represents to me. I look at that and I say, ultimately, you want to see Mike Vrabel get to a place where he is comfortable where he is outside of his comfort zone. Now, I believe that he'll ultimately still land with familiarity. Now, whether that's Shane Bowen, who did not, whose defense was summarily bad, I mean, historically bad. We all know the numbers on the third down defense. We all know that they are the only team to make the playoffs with less than 19 sacks heading into a postseason, and they got, 4 in their last game of the regular season to kind of boost those numbers. At a time, they were trailing individual players. As a team, it was terrible what this defense did. But ultimately, what I fall on, it's not to exonerate Mike Vrabel or Shane Bowen, because the players didn't get better. But the talent disparity with Wyatt Ray and Tuzar Skipper, and with Tier Tart being your best rookie asset, not just on defense, but from the rookie class as a whole. Hugely unfortunate the way that the rookies panned out, but there was such a disparity in talent that I think it was a really, really difficult job that Mike Vrabel, a difficult position that Mike Vrabel and Shane Bowen as a result, were there to be in bad, or excuse me, were put in bad positions as a result. Now, I still think that the system continuity is what they're going to try to keep. It wasn't a fault of the system outside of the communication. Kevin Byard spent almost all year talking to us about how the communication was a struggle for them. That has to improve. That is on the fault of the coaching. But I look at this and I say that ultimately this is a situation where Shane Bowen is going to be still in the building when it comes to continuity. But my first reaction was this is a good thing because at least Mike Vrabel is willing to adapt. That's the thing that I come away looking at and feeling when I hear and when I see the reports that Jerry Dulac put out there from Pittsburgh that Terrell Austin was being interviewed for the Titans defensive coordinator job. Now let's talk about Arthur Smith because that is also something that has made the news. Let's see. Brian Spivey on Facebook says we had no pass rushers, so really it doesn't matter who they pick up unless they fix the D line. And this is what I come back to. Brian is spot on. Like the coaching, it wasn't good enough. They needed to simplify the defense so the players weren't talking as much about communication. They needed to make life easier despite the talent disparity that they had. But ultimately, it's a personnel problem. And yes, John Robinson did pay $21.75 million to Vic Beasley and Jadeveon Clowney with the intention of fixing the pass rush. It did not work. The Jurrell Casey trade looks worse as a result. Jeffrey Simmons did not really progress the way that you wanted him to over the course of the season. He started so strong. He was making highlight plays, still incredibly talented against the run, but they needed him as a pass rusher, and that skill set was not there to be found. Wesley Bates wants to know about players that they are retaining. We'll talk about that another day. Right now we're focusing on the coaching and the Tennessee Titans, the position that they have been put in as a result of needing a new offensive coordinator and likely looking at defensive coordinator candidates as well. Let's spend some time on Arthur Smith, though, because that is the next topic of discussion, the next name that's on everybody's lips. So Arthur Smith, according to our friend Diana Rossini, who was on the podcast earlier this week, subscribe, rate, and review. According to our friend Diana Rossini, Arthur Smith has an offer from the Atlanta Falcons to become their head coach. I want to know because this is an inevitability at this point that Arthur Smith is going to end up leaving, whether it be to Atlanta or whether it be to another one of these openings. Now, Robert Saleh got hired by the New York Jets yesterday. You saw Urban Meyer. We spent some time on Urban Meyer to the Jags last night on the primetime show. But now I want to know, should the Titans look internally or externally for a new offensive coordinator for the 2021 season? Internally or externally is the question I'm asking you guys here on this A to Z Sports pop-up live from Tennessee Heating and Cooling and Brymac Mechanical in Clarksville, one of their main locations. We had no pass rushers, so it really doesn't matter who they pick up unless they fix the D line. Damon Glasgow says he blew the game against the Ravens. Yeah, so what I look at this and I think ultimately is that for Arthur Smith, you're looking for somebody to really excel within that same system continuity. System continuity is going to be absolutely essential for you guys to be able to succeed at a high level. That's the thing that you know that Arthur Smith did so well after Matt LaFleur left. What I want to know from you guys, internally or externally, is the candidate going to come? Hey Buck, how far is this from Nissan Stadium? Says Aaron. We're about 30 minutes from Nissan Stadium at Tennessee Heating and Cooling, Brymac Mechanical. I'm in Clarksville right now, which is their main location, but it's not the only location they have. They have three. They service a wide area, not just in the mid-state, but some of you view with us in Kentucky as well. So here is the question, though. This could be a blessing in disguise, says Ricky King. Listen, it's never a good thing when you lose a good coach. And I know it was Arthur Smith's worst game plan of the year. I understand that. I understand your frustrations with it. I was frustrated watching the way that they wasted that game against the Ravens. It was cowardice on the 4th and 2, they did not go for it. It looked like a team that did not trust what it was that they after the Ravens did so well to take away Derrick Henry. Looks like it didn't. They looked like they didn't trust what else they had at their disposal in terms of an offensive game plan. But it's never a good thing to lose a coach. Don't be so quick to forget that you had a historically good offense for this franchise under Arthur Smith, and it's not just about the talent. Colin wants them to look externally, as does Daniel. Josh Bowman does as well. Jay Gruden is already coordinating the Jacksonville Jags. Although I guess it's he would be out on the market because Doug Marrone got fired. Jeff Sawyer agrees. External. Michael McDonald says external as well. Good luck, Art, but we need more of an aggressive offensive play calling, especially with a 2,000 rusher in the league. King Solomon says, Solomon, you are dead wrong as far as Arthur Smith's aggressiveness. Like, I know you guys are pissed about the way that it ended, but don't be fooled. Arthur Smith, you want to talk about not aggressive? Mike Mularkey, Terry Robisky, and part of that was the personnel. This is a much better built team than it was that Mike Mularkey and Terry Robisky had. But Arthur Smith is about as aggressive as they come when it comes to shot plays, chunk plays down the field, passes of 20 yards or more through the air. Yes, you have good players like Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry helps set up those chunk plays that allowed Arthur Smith to be able to take those chunk plays. It starts and ends with Vrabel, says Anthony Hill. Well, he's not going to have much to do with the offense. Buck, who do you think we should target, offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator? Your perfect picks. I can guarantee Jonnu or Corey Davis will follow Art, says Wild Thomas. I don't think that's a guarantee you should be making. I don't know off the top of my head what their salary cap situations are like, but ultimately, I would say to you that it is not likely that they follow Art Smith just because their contracts are thusly. In fact, I think Art Smith is going to a team it's going to be a lot of draft capital overhaul. Rob Sullins wants them to look external. I'll tell you my opinion. I'll answer Ricky King's question about my perfect candidates here momentarily, right after I tell you about our friends at Brymac Mechanical, because it's not just Tennessee Heating and Cooling that is housed out here at their main location in Clarksville. Brymac Mechanical as well. BRYMAK, Brymac.com. That's the place that you go for satisfaction guaranteed on all your commercial HVAC needs. Tennessee Heating and Cooling, they handle the residential. Brymac Mechanical can take care of you commercially. If you need some duct work done, improve your air quality, it's one of the best things that Brymac does. BRYMAK, Brymac.com. Okay, so is Arthur for sure going to the Falcons, says Brandon? No, it's not official yet, so keep an eye on that because he has been offered a deal by the Falcons, according to our friend Diana Rossini, but he has not, to this point, as we stream here live at about 11 o'clock this morning on a Friday, he has not yet accepted the offer from the Falcons. I think he's kind of waiting. You could see a couple different scenarios playing out. Now, maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he shouldn't wait as long as he is. Maybe he should take the first opportunity that jumps at him, because some of the openings have been filled, of course, right? Jacksonville, and as we saw last night with the New York Jets. But I think he could do much worse than Atlanta. David Rickler says, I'd elevate Keith Carter to offensive coordinator if he has an offer to go with Art as OC, where he won't be calling plays. So here's what you have to think about, because when Matt LaFleur left, he did not have the opportunity to poach assistants the way that Arthur Smith will now have the opportunity to do. The rules have changed as it regards taking assistants with you as a coach, as an assistant coach, as a coordinator who gets a head coaching job. But ultimately, I think they need to look internally if they can retain Keith Carter, if they can retain Todd Downing, who has play calling experience. Those are the places, and those are the two position coaches that you would look to first. Nobody understands more about the entirety of the offensive scheme than the offensive line coach, Keith Carter, or the tight ends coach, because the tight ends, of course, are involved both in passing, in receiving, in the passing game, and in the blocking scheme. Those are very, very critical situations. I think that they need to look internally first to keep the things that the Titans do well as close to intact as they can. And then, if all else fails, you see them interviewing the Clemson offensive coordinator. Uh, that was a report that was put out there yesterday for a perfect coordinator candidate. You know, I know names like Doug Peterson are out there, who was fired from the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think you want to get in the game with somebody who would be looking to become a head coach again. I think that's ultimately what Doug Peterson's going to want to do, and he very well could find a job as a head coach somewhere else. There's still plenty of openings to be had between the Texans. And you have the Los Angeles Chargers, which is a very promising position. Doug Peterson has a Super Bowl on his resume. That's not something that's going to be easy to get him to take a step down. But I think that if you are to go internally, as I would prefer that they do, if I'm thinking out loud, I would say that Keith Carter or Todd Downing, whichever of the two, one has play calling experience. Didn't go very well for him with the Raiders, but the Raiders sucked when Todd Downing was there. Now, partly the offense sucked, which is why Todd Downing was only a coordinator for a year. But you can look at all of the talent issues that they had, the head coaching issues that they had, how bad the Raiders were and still are, frankly, even though John Gruden is making $10 million a year. For a defensive coordinator, you guys are going to get pissed at me for saying this, but I think Shane Bowen deserves another crack at it. I really do. I really think that Shane Bowen deserves the opportunity to go out there and to have legitimate talent at his disposal. This is incumbent upon John Robinson and Mike Vrabel to get him the talent. They cannot have a draft class flop the way that this one can. The way that this last year's did. They cannot have a free agency class that flops the way that this one did. I know you guys are not happy with the way that the defense performed. You are absolutely right in doing so. But I think that the scheme, there were not issues with the scheme as a whole outside of that might have been too complex for the players. They need to pare it down. But also they need to get much, much better because the Titans defensively up front were as thoroughly average as any unit in the NFL. In fact, worse than average, far below average for what you saw from the situations with the third down defense and with the lack of sacks that were there. Wow, Buck, you think he deserves another shot? I really do. I really, really do. And I understand why everybody is pushing on about that, but listen, it's a better option than Matt Patricia. I don't necessarily know, and I think they would lean that way, by the way. I think they would lean that way unless a new candidate that they're interviewing, because obviously they're interviewing, blows them out of the water. That's entirely possible. But I do think that it would be their preference to keep the scheme continuity, to keep the same play caller for the vibe of the players to try and get back into their groove with an upgrade on talent. And that's ultimately. Now, it's not perfect. You guys, Brandon, I think, asked me Ricky asked me for perfect candidates. I don't think he's a perfect candidate. But I think that there needs to be a longer leash than a year, even if it was historically bad. I totally get why everybody would push back on us. Jayon Brown screwed us. We stopped Lamar Jackson when he was healthy. You stopped Lamar Jackson. Listen, Lamar made some great plays in that playoff game, but the game plan against the Ravens was good. I don't doubt their ability to game plan. I really don't. What I doubt is the ability of the talent like Tuzar Skipper and Wyatt Ray to be able to drum up legitimate pass rush. It totally broke down in a way. I understand why everybody's mad at me. Brandon Williams says the Titans need Dean Pease or Wade Phillips. Dean Pease is not coming back. Wade Phillips announced on Twitter that he's ready to unretire. We will see how that bears out, if it factors at all, for the Tennessee Titans. I appreciate you guys being willing to hang out on this special edition of a little bit of Titans talk live from Tennessee Heating and Cooling and Brymac Mechanical. Remember, you can get satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. All you got to do is give them a call at that number that you see on the volunteer orange truck behind me, 931-614-0999, or pay them a visit online at tnhcreviews.com. We'll be back with you on Sunday night for the normal scheduled primetime. We'll be doing a lot more of these out here live at Tennessee Heating and Cooling and Brymac Mechanical. So we look forward to catching up with you then. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the rest of the postseason football, despite the Titans not being involved. And we'll talk to you again on Sunday night when it gets down to A to Z Sports Prime Time.